for our next panel, we're going to be talking about how to make data your secret weapon. Brands have a huge wealth of data at their disposal today, but not everyone is using it efficiently. But it can play a really important role in decision-making. And moreover, there are lots of challenges and opportunities that come with better use of data. So for my next panel, I'm really delighted to invite Lennart Müller-Toit, the CMO of Akris, and Adam Nate, the Worldwide Digital Engagement Manager at Saint Laurent. Welcome, Lennart and Adam. Please join me up here. Hi, Adam, if you wouldn't mind just going in the middle and Lennart just on the edge. Well, we are really appreciative to have both Lennart and Adam with us today because they both had quite long journeys. Adam arrived from Paris this morning.
Berlin.
Oh, from Berlin this morning, apologies. And Lennart has come all the way from Switzerland as well. So, thank you so much for making the journey out here. I just wanted to start by asking each of you to just introduce yourself and your role at your company. So, Adam, why don't you go first?
Sure. Hi, so my name is Adam. I've been working at Saint Laurent for 3 years now, but within Kering Group for 5 years, and I manage what we call digital engagement. So digital engagement at Saint Laurent is, it was a new scope where within that scope we manage social media, CRM, innovation, so the launch of the app, Saint Laurent app for instance, and data. So what we call precision marketing. So anything related to organic, engagement, conversion, etc. And that's.
And hi, Adam.
Thank you so much for the introduction and thank you for organizing the event. It's fantastic. Nice to be here. Yeah, my name is Lennart Müller-Toit. I have been in marketing now, brand management and digital transformation for almost 2 decades, and that makes me feel very, very old. But the good thing is I experience everything before data, social media, digital as well. I started my career working in different fashion houses, so Lacoste, Joop, Ralph Lauren in different positions before I moved then to the Middle East where I spent 10 years in Dubai. And this is when I joined the automotive industry, and I have been working with Mercedes-Benz as head of marketing and communications there for 5-6 years. And the aim was they wanted to bring in a non-automotive marketeer to be able to speak with magazines, from the house of Condé Nast, etc., because they were always very strong in automotive. But the idea was, let's reach out to a new audience and that is more interested in lifestyle and fashion, not just automotive and cars. And then 2019, I have been invited to come to the headquarters in Stuttgart to drive the digital transformation in Europe. And together with the team, this is what we have been doing. And last year, I joined then Akris, and I don't blame you if you don't know who Akris is. I read from a journalist one time, it's the best kept luxury fashion secret out there, and I think that's true to a certain extent. We are celebrating 100 years this year, and we are the only Swiss brand who always shows at the Paris Fashion Week in Paris, of course, then. So thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. So 2 very seasoned professionals on the stage with me. Lennart, I wanted to start with you because I'm quite excited to talk about this topic. Over the last 10 years, the conversation has really evolved from a focus on big data to all of the different manifestations of data. And you mentioned some of your previous roles with brands like Mercedes-Benz, and I think you've done quite a lot in this space, haven't you? Introducing new tools, for example, like predictive analytics. Can you just share a little bit about some of those changes that you've seen in the data landscape?
Yes, with pleasure. So, overall, I share your enthusiasm when it comes to data. And I remember a decade ago, everything was about big data. And I think that was in the advent of the big tech companies, Google, Amazon, Facebook, now Meta, how they started collecting data, and customers were more and more willing to give this data freely. And then every brand was talking about data and how we can collect data. And it was not so much about the processing and the use of data, really. So this is what I experienced at that time. When I joined the automotive industry, and I heard that there's a colleague from BMW here as well in the room. Hello. So maybe you can echo what I'm saying. So 2014, I joined the automotive industry, and I must say it was very traditional at that time. So the dealer network was extremely powerful and influential, and dealers tend to buy cars they know that they can sell. And all of these business decisions were then based on historic information, historic data, experience, sometimes even gut feeling. And this is what we wanted to change. At that time, we did focus groups, for example. We invited 10, 15 customers to a room. We showed them a new car, and we asked them what they think about this. And everybody plays a role in a focus group. So I didn't want to do this anymore. Instead, I wanted to have complete, unbiased feedback from our customers. And the best way to do this was to use our digital applications that we had, like the car configurator. Every day, thousands of customers use the car configurator to spec a car exactly how they want it to be. And that was so interesting because nobody influenced them, no sales associate, no partner maybe joining them to come to the showroom and what they want to impress by maybe looking at the S-Class or G-Class. So it was complete, unfiltered, unbiased information we could use. As a second step then, we wanted to harness not only this information but also use it in a better way. And maybe some of you were affected 2 years ago by the semiconductor shortage. That was really a big impact for the automotive industry. So what we started doing is using then data that we had on site. So if a customer came maybe by clicking on an ad for the G-Class, for example, but then configuring, maybe booking a test drive for an A-Class, a C-Class, or any other model, we could use this data to build a matrix to basically understand what is the second and third preferred car this customer might be interested in. And that was a great opportunity then for us to use it for upselling and cross-selling. If car availability during that crisis was a bit limited, we could direct the focus of the customer towards a different model. So overall, that was the path that we took, yes.
Thank you. And you joined Akris as Chief Marketing Officer just last year. What learnings have you already been able to bring into the business?
Yeah, I mean, as I said, the brand is now celebrating 100th anniversary, but I was positively surprised how advanced and forward-thinking this brand is. I mean, it's a third-generation family business. Apologies for the echo. And but it was very digital, and I think our customers are very cosmopolitan. They have multiple residences around the world, and they are more digital than ever before. So whenever you try to set up a new digital operation in an organization, you have a few key tasks. So the first one could be, for example, to build the right infrastructure and architecture that you need. So I was working with the IT team to make this happen. Have the right marketing engine, the data, how do you store data, if we still work with the DMP or not. And then the second one is, how do we process data? How do we collect it? How do we process it? And the last one is, I think this is something that is overlooked maybe a lot of times, is how can we make big data small data? Because big data is just a vast of information. So our aim is then continuously to make it small data, meaning do I find something interesting? Can I draw conclusions from what I see? Do I recognize certain patterns of our customers? Do I see on-site behavior that is interesting? Can I work with this, with attribution modeling, with suppression modeling? All of those terms help me then to make better decisions, and this is what we have been doing.
So much, a very thorough answer. Adam, let's bring you in because, you've worked with Saint Laurent for a few years now, but you've worked in the luxury segment for a number of years. And it is one of those industries that has so many heritage brands that are having to go through quite a quick transformation. And certainly at Vogue Business, we've been very impressed by some of the strides that Saint Laurent has made over the last few years. I'm not going to give you too many spoilers, but you're doing very well in the latest Vogue Business Index that's going to be published soon. So can you just share a little bit about how Saint Laurent has progressed with such a rapid and successful digital transformation from what was a heritage luxury label?
Sure. I think at Saint Laurent, when I joined at least, digital was definitely not part of the vision. It was still very much traditional, 360, but very much into traditional communication. Even clientelling and CRM were still sending, the lookbooks and sending handwritten notes, which is great, don't get me wrong. However, once you want to address masses, you cannot ask all of your sales associates to spend 3 hours writing handwritten notes to send them to clients or prospect clients. So I guess what changed a lot at Saint Laurent was really, two things I would say. On one hand, clearly seeing competition going also faster and digital. And as you rightfully said in the previous panel, it's not necessarily the biggest one that are doing the best. But I guess because Saint Laurent is in the middle, so we're not there with the Chanel and Hermes, but then we're also not close to the Jacquemus, we're really in between, which allows us to be a bit more agile and a bit more digital savvy. So in one hand, it was clearly competition and seeing other brands going a bit more further into the digitalization of their practices. And then on the second hand, I would say We're very lucky to be part of Kering as a group. And Monsieur Pinot has created this digital factory, which basically works for every single houses. So from Bodega Veneta to Saint Laurent, going by Brioni. And they have brought in people like, I'm thinking about Grégory Boutet, our chief digital officer, who has regular meeting with Francesca Bellettini, our CEO, who has regular meeting with Cédric Chabi at Balenciaga. So there was this clearly like this path thinking that, okay, we need to go a bit faster. And then lastly, I guess also looking in Asia. I have been lucky to live in Asia for 8 years, between Shanghai and Singapore. And moving back to Europe, this is where you realize how far advanced Asia is versus us, from the app to the data actually like usage to even like the online shopping behavior that are completely and drastically different from what you can see in Europe. So I guess looking at Asia going faster, competition, and then having the group behind us helped Saint Laurent and all the other brands, but I can only speak for Saint Laurent, of the group accelerating a bit more on the digital and the data side of things.
It's interesting to hear that as well, because I guess some of those markets like China are such important growth markets for luxury and for Saint Laurent. So you have to keep a pace of the expectations of consumers in those regions as well, if the markets are already ahead in the way that they're using data. Lena, where have you seen data having the biggest impact on Akris?
Well, I think overall data helps us to make better decisions in any business department or function that we have. So we all know this quote that in marketing 50% of the budget is wasted, but we never know which half of it. And I remember at the beginning of my career that our CFO asked us, like, why are you doing this? You're a cost center, not a profit center. And I think these times are over, fortunately. So data helps us to really be precise in all of our operations. So the first one is customer segmentation, personalization. Data allows us to learn more about our customers. So in larger groups and populations, and then in smaller segments if they have, for example, a specific unique identifier with us. The second one is campaign optimization. I don't have to rely on a media kit that tells me that as many people read it maybe or so, but I have really like in-depth information about the audience that is seeing our campaigns. And third, I think when it comes to investment planning as well. Reversing the sales funnel is not new, but this is something that we have now established also at Akris, is I know exactly what my sales target is for the next month. And together with our agencies, we reverse it basically. So I can tell, I know our return rate, so I know how many gross sales I have to achieve in this month. I know the average order value exactly, so I know exactly how many orders do I need to achieve this point. I know how many returning customers I have, and I know how many new customers I need for our acquisition planning. And then what I can do, of course, brief the agency and say, like, in order to achieve these targets, we need that many clicks, we need that many impressions, and that gives me my marketing budget for at least performance digital media. So I think these are the three components that has helped us a lot.
I think we just got a 101 in marketing there, didn't we? Thank you so much. Adam, in luxury, that there is such a strong association with craftsmanship and people power. But Leonard started talking about that really interesting example of the data about the way that people configured their cars. Has data about what people are talking about or appreciate from Saint Laurent thrown up any surprises or opportunities that you've been able to capitalize on?
Absolutely. I think that obviously when you work in luxury house, you have a preconceived idea of who your customers are. Obviously, you wish that they are those quite luxury, very well-traveled person, but it's not all the case. 70% in many of the houses, whether it's Kering or at LVMH, are first-timers. So like 70% of your customers that drive the majority of your revenue are actually people that will come just once a year in your store to purchase a bag because they want to purchase that bag. So initially what I think, and that also was a bit of my role with my boss, like the CMO of Saint Laurent, was to explain to him that I get it and I understand where you want to go and I understand the perception that you have of our client, but the reality is that not every person that will walk through the door will want a full Saint Laurent silhouette. Some people will come just for the bag, some people will come just for the shoes, and then they will complete the outfit somewhere else. And once we understood that from segmentation, client segmentation, from analysis, from website behaviors, we understood that maybe the communication needs to cater a bit more towards, for instance, handbags, which is actually paradoxical because if you watch any of our fashion shows, we are the only brand that you don't see any model with handbags. We don't show on the runway the model walking with handbags because we're prêt-à-porter brand. But thanks to data, we understood that actually this is where, at least this was the segment that drives the most business opportunity, especially in Asia. In Middle East, for instance, it was the shoes. So I guess it just helped a bit more cater communication because at the end of the day, I'm part of the communication team, so I don't have any decision power when it comes to producing a line, but I can cater the communication angle based on proper data and consumer behaviors.
Thank you. Actually, that's really helpful and clear examples there. I guess this is a question for both of you, really. If we can talk a little bit about CRM, because in the panel just before the coffee break, Kirsten mentioned that things like social commerce and TikTok becoming one of those next big hurdles for brands. When you're dealing with so many different data streams, you've got your CRM, you've got social data, you've got whatever you're holding on file about your customers. How do you unify that in a I guess, not necessarily getting a unified vision of the customer, but how do you unify that to get a holistic picture that you can actually act on? Maybe if you want to answer that first, and then I'll come to you, Leonard.
So this is actually part of my job. This is what I'm paid for, is to basically build this holistic consumer view, so the 360 view. So from a technical standpoint, basically what I've decided to do is to migrate every data into Tableau, because Tableau was just easier software to understand the CRM data, so like the click-through rate, the conversion rate, the return rate. So having that into Tableau helped us and my team, so the data analyst in my team, to get access from social media with we use Amplify, so we plugged it into Tableau, Google Analytics for the e-commerce, CRM on Tableau, etc., etc. So it helped us to get a full picture. However, my boss doesn't understand Tableau. 90% of the people in my company do not understand Tableau. So my job is to get access to Tableau, basically, or any software, honestly. It could be Power BI or anything. And to make that into a simple slide that can understand what is the snapshot of today's customer, what is today's snapshot of the prospect, and then if they want to deep dive a bit more from, let's say, a regional standpoint, they can just click on Asia or China or Korea, etc. But again, you need to use easy, comprehensible data. So for us, we made the decision to have two key figures, which are engagement, so likes, share, comment, repost, so anything that will create a bit of more EMV or engagement rate. And then the second one will obviously be business, so like conversion or gift rate or things like that. So then you see that sometimes market can be very vocal about your brand, but not necessarily purchase right away. And on the contrary, you can have markets that are a bit more quiet, like Korea, for instance, but where your brand performs very well. So that helps my boss and my CEO to make decisions accordingly. So basically, our job is to try to make things as simple as possible.
Thank you. And Leonard, any key differences in the way that you approach that?
No, I had to nod and smile the whole time because I know exactly these discussions that Adam is having. No, I mean, the way I explain it to our entire organization is that I think in retail, fashion, business, over the last decades, boutiques have really mastered the art of looking after their customers. In hospitality, you might call it guest management. In retail boutiques, you call it then CRM or PRM for prospect relationship management. But the moment you enter a boutique, the customer, the sales associate knows so much about you as a customer. They might know your age range, they might know your, biological gender, they might know your nationality, which passport you hold, if you're local, if you're an expat, if you're a tourist, all of those things that are known to them. And everything else they find out within the first few minutes of the conversation. They're asking you what particular event would you like, this look to be worn, etc. What are you looking for? They know instantly a lot about you as a customer. So I want to mimic the same operational excellence than in digital. And there's so much information and data we have. So from the larger population of customers, when they come to the website, we know a lot about them. I know their affinity category, I know their age, I know their browsing behavior. all, of course, within the rules of GDPR and to be data compliant, but there's a lot they can tell us, and this is what we want to harness as well, yeah.
Thanks so much. And you mentioned that point about guest relations and having that view of the customer. I'm conscious that Saint Laurent launched a new digital tool for advisors to, I guess, build that personal relationship with their customers, but also to empower them a little bit more on the shop floor. Can you tell us a little bit more about that tool and how it manifested?
Sure. So it started 3 years ago when I joined. We were having what we call campus days. So once a year, Saint Laurent organizes a campus digital focus or sustainability depending on the year, and basically it's like a bunch of workshops, and at the end of it, some ideas get picked up and get to be explored. So one of the ideas was to launch an app, so a clientelling app which is Luce for our sales associate, but that is mirrored for a regular client or prospect, so they also have the app and they can interact with their sales associate, they can build their own love rolls, which is like their preferred item, and build a sort of a wardrobe. So then the sales associate can reach back to them and be like, oh, I saw that we've selected the maillon. If you'd like, you can come over. I can organize a showing, etc., etc. So basically, how did that happen, and how we ended up launching this app 3 years later? Because obviously a big organization takes a long time. In 3 years, though, I thought it was okay to build something that was data, obviously, infrastructure-wise, pretty robust. So anything can be plugged into the existing data cloud that we have. And most importantly, we had a tool where we realized that, especially during COVID, because COVID has accelerated everything from a digital standpoint, especially for luxury brand, we realized that clients do enjoy to be in contact with the sales associate. Even though they're not top client, even though they're a first timer and they came just once in the store, they do enjoy all this little attention, like the happy birthdays, you bought a bag a year ago, the bag anniversary, all those little things. That's why I think they also save sometimes to have this luxury experience. So the app came up for that. They were like, okay, on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter, you don't get a connection with the brand. It's more like it's more a top-down approach, like the brand showing you the content that they want to show you. Versus on the app, you are also you participating in the conversation. You can write to your sales associate. You can try to book an appointment. So that's how it came up about, and so far the results are pretty good.
Thank you so much for sharing that. It's actually quite an interesting evolution, because I remember just before lockdown I was doing a study on, I guess, clientelling in China, and one of my researchers went into Gucci. I can't remember what it was. I think it was in Chengdu, and the tailoring expert there was able to give her all of the information, and then sent her all of the items that she had looked at via WeChat, and then she was able to go into a store in Italy the following week and get that information. I have no idea how they're moving that kind of information from a mammoth app like WeChat but into their CRM, but it was just an example of how much work the sales associates are doing to maintain those relationships, but also the importance of how valuable and impactful that experience was when that information was transmitted through a social app into the CRM as well. Lena, data isn't always about numbers. There's a lot of other types of information out there that brands are using, and I guess with some of the newer technologies that are emerging, more sources of visual data or even social listening data. Are there any sort of surprising data sets or data points that Akris is using?
Everything starts for us with Google Analytics and GA4, of course. Social listening is a great tool to learn more about what the audience thinks about us, because similar to Saint Laurent, we also like to picture the audience and our target group in a specific way. And here it's interesting to learn retail reality sometimes as well. Despite anything that is digital, and I'm a huge advocate for the digital world, of course, but what I found very interesting is direct customer dialogue as well. So the direct feedback loop through the boutiques. We have similar programs, for example, where we have our best customers. They come maybe to the store in Ginza or next time in Boston or so. And we know these customers, and it could be a customer from Kazakhstan where we don't not even have a boutique, but they come to the store, they are well known to us, and then we ship an entire rack of looks and outfits to them, and usually they keep everything, fortunately. So this direct dialogue helps us a lot. So we have a close feedback loop then with the boutique managers, wholesale partners as well, especially in the US. And what's interesting is also small things like the return rate. I had the pleasure of discussing exactly with my colleague from Bogner earlier the return rate. So when customers send something back, they give us a reason why. So we started analyzing this. What is it? Is it fit? Is the color maybe true to the picture that we had on the website? So there's a feedback loop then to our in-house graphic department and studio so that we make sure that the accuracy maybe on the color is optimized. Or to our creative department that the fit maybe on knitwear needs to be worked on because something might have changed and suddenly a loyal audience is sending back all the knitwear they kept ordering. So any kind of customer dialogue helps us to make, I think, the experience a bit better. And yeah.
Actually, I think you mentioned something that was really important there, which was how that information migrates across different teams. Adam, not everyone is a data person. I mean, you already outlined some of the challenges you have about making sure that your senior stakeholders actually understand what that data is representing. But if we take a holistic marketing teams as an example, you'll have your analytics teams, but you also have creative marketing teams who might not be using the same resources. How do you get the right information to the right people and, I guess, empower people to collaborate when they're not always relying on the same resources or they're not always as data savvy as you might be or as some of your team members might be?
The first thing I've learned at Saint Laurent, which helped me a lot, is that data is here to serve a business purpose, but it's not here to serve a creative purpose. For us, Anthony Vaccarello, or before Eddie Sliman, or before Pilati, at Kering, we're lucky to have strong, great creative and artistic director. Therefore, my role is not to give them any feedback or opinion about the choice of the photographer or the lighting, or because let's say, for instance, the post did not perform well on Instagram. The problem must lie somewhere else. Maybe it was the timing, maybe it was the caption, maybe it was the hashtag. My role is to use data to empower my team to find what can they solve. My job is not to help solving creative problems. And I think a lot of data people sometimes find a bit, they're like heading the wall sometimes, because when you have data, when you have access to data, like for instance the return policy, like, but no, like the fit must be changed because size 0 is not size 0, whatever. This is not our role. Like, we have to understand that my role, at least in marketing, is to do better marketing, is not to change the creative vision. So anything that can help from, as I said, caption, hashtag, timing, I can make recommendation. For instance, we know that Instagram algorithm today pushes more reels and dynamic content than static content. So for the fashion show that we had yesterday, I asked to have more dynamic content. So this is more of a dialogue to explain that, hey, the platform is changing, people usages are changing, so it would be great if we can have that type of content, but not coming to the creative team and be like, this is what I need. Like, I think it has to be, as you said, like empowering, and the best way to empower people is to let them do their job and to give them the right tool to do it.
So we've almost come to the end of my questions. I've just got one more for the two of you before I throw it out to the audience, which is, how do you think brands can get smarter use data in the most impactful way? Leonard, do you want to go first on that?
Sure. Well, I think it's. I always keep telling my team as well, like, let's be curious. Let's go through the world with open ears and eyes. Let's see what's happening. You have to be. I mean, digital marketing is equal parts science and art, I believe. So the science part is now much better covered than ever before with the digital tools that we have. But it requires curiosity as well and asking the right questions so that we know where to dig and explore further. So that usually leads to a case where correlation does not, equal causality, for example. So I think this is something that we also have to be aware of. And yeah, overall curiosity, ask the right questions, and so that the IT team knows what to set up for us.
Thanks. And you, Adam, same question?
Yeah, I guess for me, that's where I try to the team that I have is very diverse and come from different backgrounds, from journalism to engineering in electronics. So what I try to teach them or to tell them is like, try to always ask yourself what is the impact that you have. So for instance, if you're part of the social media, we know that your impact will only be about, as I said, social engagement and social listening. However, if you're part of the app team, is the revenue. So try to always measure what you do, and the best way to measure it, at least in CRM, is to put control group. Because there is no way you can deny that if client A got a CRM activity and purchased right after, and the client B didn't get anything, it proves that doing CRM actually matters. So I think that's why, like, I think in data is always to have the mindset of understanding or trying to understand your impact, and also it gives you a bit more legitimacy to then share opinions or to be part of conversations.
Thank you. Lena, it looked almost like you had something to add there.
No.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. That brings it to the end of my questions. Does anyone in the audience have any questions for Lena or Adam?
Hi, me again. So, how do you think like data, for example, for generating new customers? Because I think we're talking here about like customers that we already know, and then you use the data to kind of like run through them like some information. But new customers, how you bring new people to the brand? How to grow the brand using data?
Yeah, I think I touched on this just with a very short sentence. So I like to look into affinity categories, especially for upper funnel management / awareness. I was looking into this just recently to see like what are the interest categories that are important to our customers or future target groups, our prospects. And I was pleased to see that it's not just fashion, for example, or lifestyle, but it's art, it's design, it's hospitality, it's fine dining and travel. So that informs the media mix modeling, and maybe suggest a few other titles from the Condé Nast family that we can advertise in. Yeah.
Thank you. Anyone else? No? Okay, well, if anyone thinks of anything, then do grab Adam and Lena during the networking reception at the end. But thank you so much. It's been a really interesting conversation, and thank you for making a data topic so accessible for somebody like me who's not necessarily the most technical data person. I really appreciate it. It's been a great discussion. Thank you so much, both of you.
Thank you so much.